Patrick Smith, and you're watching the Mountains of Leadership podcast, episode 5. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Patrick?
Doing great, man. So you wanted to start with a shout out.
Yeah. So with the 4th of July week and everything, Independence Day, we try and give some acknowledgement to our vets, military, a lot of our, first responders, things like that. I was reminded of this last week. I saw, there are a lot of things that are brought to mind in June with what the whole month stands for and whatnot for some different organizations out there. But there's one thing, the month of June is also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So
we're just finishing up June, Men's Mental Health Awareness. They don't really focus on that a lot, right?
No. Actually, there's some interesting stats because, men don't reach out. I don't know if you knew this or not, but every day, 22 veterans take their lives.
That's 22 too many.
Exactly. Absolutely. Part of that's the VA system. Part of that's also men not reaching out. 75% of all suicides are men. 75%.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4 suicides are men.
I heard a stat somewhere. I haven't confirmed this, but it's men are 4 times more likely to commit suicide than women.
Yeah. 70. Yeah, exactly. That's 3 times. So 3 to 1. It's 3 to 1. So
it's up there.
And then, it's like, there's so many compensating factors to this, right? Like you can go read the stats. Like men are so less likely to even think about getting married these days, just because of the things that are going on with the world and the mentality and like the loss of like the sanctity of marriage and things like that. Like 80% of women initiate divorces. They get, men, we get into a marriage and we're like, okay, we're going to be the providers. We're going to take care of this. We're going to do this. We're going to take care of our family. We're committed to this. And then as we're taking care of that, a lot of times our partners are like, you see the comical things sometimes, but there's a lot of truth to this. It's like, yeah, if they don't feel like they're getting what they need out of the relationship, they just check out, go find a new one, instead of like, okay, this is yours, what we're doing here. So we both bring 100%. I mean, there's so many different theories of this, but regardless, it's
where
like,
I came from, you fix what's broke, you work together. And you look at the stats on the suicide rates right now, and I'm probably quoting a different stat or something similar. It sounds like the numbers are pretty close for what you have and what I have, but men's mental health is a thing. And
it is.
If they're committing suicide at rates at least 3 to 4 times more than women, there's something more there.
Right. A lot of things in the background. Well, and then there's an organization that I support, and I should have worn the t-shirt today. It's the Till Valhalla Project. It's valhallaproject.com or tillvalhallaproject.com.
To Valhalla?
Till Valhalla Project.
TV, yeah, we'll have that up on the screen, guys.
TVP.
Go follow that. We definitely endorse them.
So what they do is they are a nonprofit organization that directly works to put an end to the 22 veteran suicides a day. So that is something that is like near and dear to my heart. I like to, so I'd like to give them a shout out with the Independence Day coming up, and
very fitting.
Just Men's Mental Health Month going out. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for doing that. It's really thoughtful, and like you said, it's very fitting. July 4th week, and just coming up off of June. I mean, there's other things that get attention. Why can't we draw some attention there? I definitely agree with you. So, guys, we'll put that up on the screen, tillvalhalla.com.
Tillvalhalla Project.
Tillvalhallaproject.com.
Right.
And go there, check it out. And so that is a plug for you guys for today. Segue into what we're talking about today. So normally we sort of have one topic and there's a lot of continuity between, the top 10 things of this or whatever. Today we wanted to go through some things you may not know about.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And we wanted to cover the Titan submersible that imploded recently. There's some interesting eerie connections with the Titanic that we're going to go through.
It's been all over the board, man. It's been crazy.
Yeah, well, that whole story is, I I think I heard that they have a documentary out already about it.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I think there's some interesting stuff worth bringing up. And I mean, man, that whole thing. I mean, have you seen who was on board? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen who was on board. Like, it's crazy. Like the tie-ins, especially all the way back to the actual Titanic sinking.
Yeah. So what was it? Was there like 5 guys on there? So you had a businessman, billionaire. I've got the names here. It was Hamish Harding, and
Right.
he was a British billionaire. And I think he was also on the Blue Origin that traveled to space with Jeff Bezos.
Correct.
And he was the chairman of the Action Aviation and Aircraft Brokerage firm. And so it seems like he was one of those guys that just was like a thrill seeker.
Adventure junkie, yeah.
Adventure junkie. And so then you had the other two. So it was a father and a son. And I'm going to butcher these names, guys. I'm so sorry. But it's, what is it?
Shahzada and Suleiman.
Suleiman Dawood?
Yeah, something like that.
And so their family, they were both aboard. And he was a prominent businessman. And I think over the Father's Day weekend, he talked his son into going with him. And his son went with him to go on this trip. And I don't think he was originally going to go, but just to spend some time with his dad, he decided to go. So he was on there.
Now that's interesting tie-in with that one and this is where the like, all right, first of all, some of the things I've been seeing is like, they don't have the video. There's no photographic evidence of these people actually getting on the submarine. Okay,
man, there's no photos, there's no video, man. They don't even have like another sub down there. It's like, oh, there they are floating in the water. Like there's no record that they actually were even on
they
it.
bolted this thing shut. Somebody did and sent it down there.
Well, and that's the thing. Like they had to lag bolt it shut once they were on it, if they were on it. And there's a lot of conspiracy going around about were they even on it. It's a good way to fake your death. And I don't want to be insensitive. If these guys were really on that thing and their families are hurt, then that's
prayers to their families and everything else. But this Shahzada Dawood or whatever, the Pakistani businessman, his company made the chemicals that crashed in Ohio.
The Palestine, Ohio train wreck?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're into like energy, petrochemicals, fertilizer. I think they have like an IT company and some food and agricultural stuff that they're into, but it just seems odd, right? Like,
right.
They were the ones, I did some research on this. They actually were the ones that created the chemicals that spilled on that train.
Yes. And they were like, there was a big lawsuit, and like they said that the effects of these chemicals may not be completely known for 2 to 3 generations.
And it's
because it can directly affect the DNA.
So there's been multiple train accidents, but there was one where I guess they made a decision to ignite it and burn it off. That's one, right?
That one. Mm-hmm.
Because they had like a new molecule. The molecule that was created, it had like a chlorine shell on it that was indestructible. It doesn't break down over time. So it's like stronger than Teflon, I believe, was the element itself. So when they set that thing on fire, it went up in the air. That's the same one. Oh, man, well that's interesting. And so he was on the sub, and then you had. So there's a couple other guys. Stockton Rush was the owner and CEO, I guess, of OceanGate. And then Paul Henry Naglaje or
Najolet.
He's
a French
He's
dude.
French. But he was a diver, and I think that he had been on multiple Titanic expeditions in the past.
He was on the first one.
Was he on the
87?
Very first one. They brought up pieces of the Titanic and had him at a museum. He was a part of that one, I know for sure.
Right. So this brings up an interesting point about, another one of the conspiracy theories about the whole Titanic thing going down in the first place, right?
Yeah.
One of the conspiracy theories is, everybody, it's always been said it was an iceberg that took out the Titanic. Well, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, because there were some gentlemen that were supposed to be on that Titanic that happened to step off at the last minute, that headed up the Federal Reserve when the Federal Reserve got started, and some of the people that were against the Federal Reserve were on the Titanic.
Yeah. So, man, that is, I don't know. Have you ever read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island?
No.
Okay. I recommend that book. I'll put a plug up here for you guys, for anyone that's watching, but I highly recommend watching that movie, or reading that book rather. It's the author, he went in and he talks about the creation of the Federal Reserve. And so at the time, I think it was like 1910, they went over there and met at this island, and it was, who is they? Well, Congress was looking at trying to regulate the big banks and stuff. And the banksters basically said, well, we'll help you write the legislation on it. Instead of fighting it, they were like, well, we'll get on board and we'll help you. And so that's kind of smart, right? If you see a lot of these companies, like cigarette companies, they ride the wave of regulatory stuff.
Right.
And that's allowed them to survive over the years. And so that's effectively what these guys did. They went in and they said, well, we'll help you write the legislation. We'll partner with you.
We'll help you make the rules that we need to play by, okay?
Exactly. And so they end up going to this island, and I think it was, so I've got the notes here. These guys, it was, let's see, Nelson Aldrich. He was a Republican whip in the Senate at the time. The whip, whether you're on the Democratic Party or the Republican Party side of the aisle, the whip is there to kind of keep everyone in line. The party whips up the votes and all of that. But they, if you look at the ages over the years, some of the unscrupulous ways that they pressure people into voting their way, it's pretty interesting. So that guy had a lot of power in the Republican Party. Henry Davison, he was a senior partner at J.P. Morgan. And so then you had A. Piatt Andrew, and he was the assistant secretary of the Treasury at that time. And then from there, you had Frank Vanderlip, and he was a president of National City Bank.
Now, these are all the guys that are out on
Jekyll Island.
Jekyll Island. Okay.
Yeah, so they all go meet there to talk about creating the creation of the Federal Reserve. And then you had Benjamin Strong of J.P. Morgan, and then Paul Wahlberg. He was a partner representing the Rothschilds in Europe. And then if you look at these guys' wealth at that time and you equate it to today's standards, just those guys alone in that room, they held about 1/4 of all the world's wealth at that time. And so the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, the creature itself is the Federal Reserve. It was created.
The Federal Reserve Act.
Yeah. And J.P. Morgan, I think he owned the company, or a big piece of the company, who owned the Titanic. So he effectively owned the Titanic, essentially. And so I think the conspiracy theory you're alluding to is he like it's proven he walks off the boat right before they leave, right before it launches. And there's people that wonder, was it even the Titanic, or did they swap it out for another boat? There's people saying, well, do they really want people going down to the Titanic to see what really happened? Did it really sink from an iceberg, or did they blow it up? All these different things. And you got this Titan sub that now is doing trips down there, and all of a sudden there's an issue with it. I mean, we didn't even get into the design aspects of this thing and why it failed.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, there's a reasonable explanation, I guess is what I'm getting at. We'll get to that too, but it's really interesting to point this out because Stockton Rush was the CEO of the company that owned the Titan sub, and his wife, what is her name? It was, I've got it over here somewhere.
Wendy?
What was her name?
I want to say
Wendy Rush.
Wendy, yeah.
Yeah, Wendy Rush. So it turns out that she was related. She's the great granddaughter of Isador and Ida Straus, and they were on the Titanic.
Yep, and they owned Macy's.
That's crazy. And so the other connection to this, which is really compelling, is there were people at the time. Was it back around like between 1910 and 1913 or 14? There were like 3 or 4 business guys at the time that were billionaires. Equivalency at the time. I don't think they were technically billionaires, but if you took inflation now and brought it to today's standards, they would be billionaires. And so they had a lot of power and a lot of steam in their engine, and so their words held weight. And Isador Straus was one of the 3 guys that was on the boat that went down with the Titanic that were super powerful men at that time. So you have J.P. Morgan,
and he was against the Federal Reserve.
So the going thing is these three guys. So it was Isador Straus, Benjamin Guggenheim, and then John Jacob Astor. I think they all went down on the Titanic, but Isador Straus is related to Wendy Rush, who is the wife of Stockton Rush, who is the CEO of OceanGate that went down supposedly on this.
And her
Titan.
great-great-grandparents died. And you'll see, like, we'll throw up a clip right now. I found this clip from the movie of Ida and Isador Straus in the movie, where they're depicted, because he wouldn't get off the boat because there's still women and children left, and she wouldn't leave him behind.
Yeah,
that's the theory. So
wow, so him and his wife both went down with the Titanic. Straus is one of three men to have said to have been in direct conflict with the Federal Reserve, or the concept of the Federal Reserve. It's interesting though, because as I did some research on Isador Straus, I think there's New York Times articles at the time of him coming out in favor of the Federal Reserve Act. So I don't know what to believe on that, but it's just so compelling to me that his great-great-granddaughter, her husband is now, supposedly gone. Titan sub. That's something.
It is. And there's so much stuff. And so what the interesting thing is that if you want to disappear, this is how you do it.
Right.
So go over, tell me how this thing was built.
Okay, so the specs on this thing, have you seen... Okay, this is common knowledge at this point, I think, but have you seen the controller that they used?
Yeah, it was a video game controller.
It was like an off-brand Nintendo controller, and it was Bluetooth connection. Like, to me, in my mind, my engineering background says that thing should be hardwired into the boat.
I dropped a Bluetooth call 4 times on the drive over here in 20 minutes.
So you dropped it 4 times.
The Bluetooth
dropped.
Disconnected from my car 4 times in the 20-minute drive over here.
Could you imagine being like 10,000 foot deep in the ocean and hear the words Bluetooth disconnected?
Bluetooth connected.
I don't mean to laugh. It's poor taste. I'm not trying to have poor taste, but you can't make this up. I mean, they used a remote controller for a game system that you could buy on Amazon, and then there was a lot of... I have it here. Where is it at?
I read another thing this weekend that when he went down on one of the initial test things, he heard a loud noise and a bang, like a cracking or something. And he's like, "Oh, subs, anything that goes underwater is going to make noises like that." That was one thing. The other thing is,
oh my gosh,
he had the pilot was down at the sub, and when he fired up the thrusters, one of them was wired backwards, so the sub started spinning. So he had to have the pilot reprogram the thruster
in reverse
while he's still underwater, just to remap the whole thing, so that they would both go forward. Because when he pushed the controller to go forward, it started going in circles, started spinning.
That is super sketch, man. That is so insane. So they have this Bluetooth controller. The thruster is programmed backwards.
It was at one point in time.
The handles on the ceiling. He did an interview. I think it was with CBS or something at one point. I'm talking about the CEO, Stockton Rush. He did this interview, and he says the handles on the ceiling feel like the ones in the subway car, except they're glass and they light up. He goes, "I got these from Camping World." So it's just crazy. And then I think the biggest thing is the carbon fiber hull. So I think the end cap was made out of titanium. And so titanium is the compressive and tensile strength. It's made for that inflection, or that back and forth compression, tension over time. But that carbon fiber hull that it was built out of, and I think it was just like a cylindrical tube that carbon fiber is made. It's really strong, but it's not made for over and back and forth iterations of compression and tensile over and over again. And so it started to delaminate. And so maybe they had, how many, I don't know, what was it, 12 to 20 successful trips down below? It wasn't all
the way down to
they didn't go all the way down.
Right. There were test runs.
Definitely test runs. But
so you have this brittle material. Carbon fiber is very, very hard. You talk about if you have a dry branch versus a green branch, right? And you bend the dry branch, it's going to snap. If you have a green branch, it's going to bend. That's right. And that's what we're talking about, strong enough to bend. carbon fiber is not strong enough to bend.
Plastic properties of the metal, plasticity properties and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, it's just crazy. So, you know, going back and forth like that with that carbon fiber, the delaminations that you have, you know, I think they were warned about that from multiple engineers and different people. And they claim to have had, I guess, professionals from NASA, like experts from NASA, was it Boeing or one of the major airline companies, maybe Lockheed. I can't remember who it was, but a lot of those companies have since come out and said, we didn't really advise you on this particular design. And it kind of seems like he just sort of
winged it
a little bit. I mean, it's weird. It's weird, man, because they had interviews where he's touting this, like, you know, he's sort of like Indiana Jones, like breaking the rules and just adventure or whatever. Forget the safety factor on the design aspects. It'll save you lots of money. But then in other interviews, and other people that experienced, you know, being on the sub and actually talking to him, it seemed like they had a culture of safety. So I don't really know.
They had a safety culture, right? They had sensors that were gonna go off if it started cracking. But let's just think about this.
Sensors wouldn't work, man.
So 10,000 tons of pressure. That is 20 million pounds of pressure
per square inch.
Pounds per square inch, right?
On the body.
And the human body is what, 255 square inches of surface area?
Something like that,
right?
Yeah.
So that's crazy. And then we're talking about this cylinder. So when this cylinder compressed under however much pressure it had on it, the air that was inside of that compressed at such a rate that they say it would have been equivalent to the temperature of the sun.
Surface of the
sun. So that air got instantly hot. So they say that the sub compressed or imploded in 1 millisecond. When people say they don't know what hit them, they literally don't know what hit them. It takes, I think it's 11 milliseconds. So they imploded in 1 millisecond.
Yep.
It takes 11 milliseconds for pain receptors for the brain to pick up pain. And it takes 13 milliseconds for
like the visual
for optics, for the visual effect to get to the brain through the optic nerve and everything else.
They didn't even feel anything.
No.
They didn't see it. They didn't feel it. That was it.
Yeah. If they were indeed on it, they definitely didn't suffer. But you also found a video showing what happened just at 300 feet to a...
Yeah. The former Mythbusters guys, they built this like fake body out of pig skin and bones and meat and stuff. Here, let's check this out real fast. I have it up. I'll show you.
Unbearable 5,500 to 6,000 psi. All of that pressure was pushing on the Titan when it imploded, as well as each of the people inside, on every single square inch of their bodies, all at once. NBC News calls that equivalent to up to 10,000 tons pressing against them. A 2009 Mythbusters episode demonstrated what happens to a human body subjected to deep-sea diving pressure high enough to cause an implosion. The experiment saw a human-shaped dummy made of pig parts with bones, muscle, fat, skin, and midsection of guts stuffed into a deep-sea diving suit. What results is a popping, spurting mass.
My goodness. So, okay, my background, I'm going to pull up a diagram here. I want to show you. I put this together, and it's we can look at that. I'll pull it up on screen, but I can talk through it. So basically, the Titanic, where they were going down to look, is right around. I think it's 12,500 foot, or about 2.5 miles down, roughly. Mm-hmm. And then there's like a tranche or a trench area down below. It gets down to around 13,000. They weren't down, I don't think, down that low. So we'll just assume like 12,500 feet, right? And when I was drilling, when I was working with a team of people that were drilling oil and gas wells. So I worked as a reservoir engineer and looking at the pore pressures and stuff and the pore gradients as you're drilling down into the rock. You don't want to have a blowout and have stuff explode on you and come out and kill people, right? So we would have mud weight or fluid, like a hydrostatic column, pressing back down as we're drilling, right? And the hydrostatic equation that you would use is a 0.052 multiplied by the density of the fluid above you, the fluid column, at pounds per gallon, so ppgs, multiplied by TVD, or true vertical depth. So it's 0.052 multiplied whatever you assume the density of the seawater was, multiplied by 12,500 foot. And I think I calculated it at somewhere around between 5,500 psi to about 6,000 psi, just as a vertical load column on them. And so they were at 300 feet, and this person basically turns to mush, liquid. I mean, you saw the blood kind of come up into the, it's crazy. And so can you imagine the effects of that at 12,500 feet, or, even 10,000 feet? Maybe they were at 9,000, who knows? But to me, man, that is insane. And so you look at the pounds per square inch force laterally, horizontal, if you've got a sphere, those forces are acting at all the different points around that ball, right? This thing was more of like a sausage shape, right? And so point loads on a circular surface that are reinforced are better than having them on the sides and around something and then having the ends rounded or capped off.
Right.
And so I think there was some modeling that they did where they show that the carbon fiber doesn't bend, it like shatters. And so you get the air that heats up in there to the surface of the sun, and they're eviscerated in that moment. Probably that alone probably got them. But then if that didn't kill them, let's assume that the temperature stayed the same. The weight alone, the impact from that thing imploding and folding, I think it would have folded in half and just shattered.
Right.
Is crazy. And to think that you would find any remains of anybody is you're very hopeful. Let's put it that way.
Definitely. So, so there are so many little things that, they're talking about. Experts say Titan's sub's unconventional design may have destined it for disaster. Ocean Gate Titan, disaster or distraction. There's so many like YouTube videos and stuff on this too. There were a lot of things that happened that week during while everybody was distracted.
Like as the lead up to it?
Well, no. Like this is let's see here. There's this. Let me see if I can find this video here real quick on TikTok. But anyway, so while we were everybody was like, okay, Sunday, we've lost the sub. They have 96 hours of air.
Oh, sure.
Monday, we're looking for it. Tuesday, we heard banging. Wednesday, guys, we have 24 hours to find them. Like we have 24 hours worth of oxygen left. If we can find them, we got to get out there. Thursday, they're running the big winches and they're like getting it out of air. Like this drug on from Sunday to Thursday, right? But the U.S. Navy heard the implosion on Sunday.
That was that bang, right?
That was the bang. But they heard on Tuesday. They heard banging. Oh, we hear banging. Like they're banging on the sub. It gave everybody hope. Like, oh no, like, oh, did they find them? Like, are they alive? And then Wednesday, oh, we have 24 hours to find them. Like, and then Thursday, we found remnants. Then the Navy comes out and says, we heard it implode on Sunday.
Like, but were all the different agencies communicating? Do you think, or I wonder how that worked? Because
so this is the government lost $6.2 billion taxpayer dollars.
Oh my gosh!
Because of the Titan sub sinking. That's what we lost. That's what we put into it.
The resources.
But during that week, let's see, Joe Biden was served articles of impeachment. The same week, his son was basically slapped on the wrist for tax evasion for all of his drug related stuff over in Ukraine and like all of the political influence they were trying to do, the kickbacks he has taken. Yeah, they smacked him on the wrist for tax evasion.
Wow.
There were some other things that were going on that week that were not being prominently put in the news because we have this big headline, what's going on at the Titan sub.
Yeah.
So whenever you see something going on over here, guys, what you gotta see, okay, what are they trying to distract us from?
Bait and switch.
There are so many, like, TikTok has been really crazy about this.
You got to be careful with TikTok, though.
Oh, I know. It's just like, but I'm not just saying just TikTok, but like the Facebook Reels and things like that. I just call them all TikTok because they're like 2-minute videos.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I'm trying to find that video that anyway of what we were distracted by, all the things that happened while we were being distracted. But regardless, there were a lot of little things happening, and you guys can Google it, look it up yourself, and verify everything that was going on while we're distracted by this sub that they knew blew up on Sunday. Mm-hmm. The U.S. government knew it blew up on Sunday, but was it a diversion, distraction?
Man, and it's so hard, right? I mean, because the people's trust in news outlets. I mean, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. No one trusts. I don't trust them. Our news outlets anymore. And the people who are really doing well, they're not even really truly news outlets. It's like crazy as it is. It's people like Joe Rogan or like Patrick Bet-David's podcast. Like they're all doing a really good job of like covering actual facts, and so people are really reverting to going to places like that for their news. And it's, to me, that's why I asked you, I wonder how the communication was going between all the different entities looking for the sub, because did the news know that it had imploded and then they were continuing to report to sensationalize it? No, that's a question. It's just a genuine question.
I don't think the news knew. So here's my speculation. Okay. Complete speculation. Mm-hmm. And this is, number one, I don't think they're on the sub. Number two, I think it got sent down and the Navy needed to record an implosion. It imploded. They recorded it on Sunday, but it's classified, right? This is military. Military is the only one that has the information. So hence the government, military, the only one that has the information. Like, okay, guys, let's get this stuff done. Okay. We can drag this out for 96 hours. That's the storyline. We have 96 hours to get this. Like, let's sprint, guys. We have 4 days.
Distract. Hold the data.
Why'd they go down on Sunday? Right? Why'd they go down on Sunday? Why,
going into the week?
Right. Why not a day of the week? Why'd they go down on Sunday? I know that they were waiting on weather to pass. They were waiting on weather. Like, there was supposedly, okay, they had a window in the weather. They went down. The sub went down. Okay, we know there's definitely a submarine that went down. Okay, we don't necessarily know who or if anybody was on board. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's my theory, is that they literally like that's how trusting I am, guys. I don't trust anybody. If I can't see it with my own eyes, touch it with my hands, like hear it with my own ears, I don't trust it anymore. I just
What is the saying? Trust nothing you hear and half of what you see. And it's, I mean, man, but like there was, like during COVID, they were doing videos and sensationalizing all these people dying in the hospitals. And they were having actors, or they were taking stuff from a different venue or something that had happened at a different time.
Like a decade before.
And showing that as if it was happening then on the news. And I can't remember who all was doing that. I think CNN was caught several times, but then, like, I didn't even know, maybe Fox was in on that. So I don't, used to historically, it was like, okay, if you're like a Democrat, you watch CNN. If you're a Republican, you do Fox News. I don't know that that's true anymore.
Especially once I got rid of Tucker Carlson, right?
Yeah, well, and he's doing his own thing now. And I mean,
and they're suing
good on him.
And they're suing him.
Well, because they know he's getting ready to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But man, it's crazy. So you got to ask the questions. I think it's okay to ask the questions, and it's okay to have the doubt behind it and not be naive, right? What I don't want to do is just take a TikTok video and run with it. But I'm like you, man. This. I'll send you TikTok videos. Yeah. But it's really interesting in the age of media that we're in, is that it's hard to suppress the truth because people can go do their own research now. I mean, it's hard now. Some of the algorithms on Google, you can't search certain things. So you have to go to a different search platform to go look up other data to see what will pop up. Problem with that is you got to make sure the fidelity of the data is good, right? Mm-hmm. But with something like this, it's very compelling. And to me, what I'm most interested in is the connection to Straus back when he went down on the Titanic. I mean, you look at the news media, and at times they'll do hit jobs on people that aren't true. They'll put words in their mouth or twist something or whatever. You've got these articles, I think it was from New York Times with Straus, that he wrote, in favor of this new banking system, which would eventually become the Federal Reserve, that he was in agreement with it and pushing it as well. But the conspiracy theories, if you look at them, they're saying he was one of the ones that was against it, and he had a lot of pull and a lot of influence and stuff like that, that he wasn't for it. And so he goes down on the Titanic. JP Morgan's on the boat. I want to say some folks from the Rothschild or the Rockefeller crew were on it. They all step off the boat right before it leaves. The boat goes down. And the quote being, "God couldn't sink this boat." I don't think that you challenge God like that. That's not wise. But it's interesting to look at all of those dynamics, and then to you look at where we are today, and you've got the great-great-granddaughter of Straus. Her husband is the one that owns the sub. He goes down on the sub. He dies if he's in it. The connections are just uncanny. You can't make it up.
Dead men tell no tales.
I'm just wondering though. If you're the great-great-granddaughter, you're compelled, right? Like, oh, this is really interesting,
right?
I could see if why they were pursuing this venture, this company.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyhow,
we can go down this rabbit hole all day. All right, let's move on to the next thing. If you don't know what you don't know.
Future of business and AI.
Future of business and AI, dude. Like, okay, so my company, the mortgage company I work for, SunWest Mortgage. They have been working for the last few years on developing an AI platform that's actually backed with human interaction, if need be, that works in the mortgage and real estate industry, and it's patented. We're the only company that actually has this, right? It's called Angel AI. It's really, really cool, but it was coming out. They had this going on before even ChatGPT came out. They launched it last June. It was called Morgan then. Now it's called Angel AI. Anyway, it's going to change the face of business. Like, you can, like, what have you done?
So I'm going to digress back a minute. So the future of business with AI, if you don't embrace that, you're going to be so far behind in the next few years. I just encourage you, if you're a business leader, business owner, you run a team, and you want to get into this, I'm telling you, it's the next wave. It's the next revolution of business. And you get the Chat GPTs of the world and all of that. And we've evolved past Chat GPT already in the last few months even. But to Mark's point, what he's talking about is Angel AI. It's formerly known as Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the website on that?
It's usemorgan.com, or now it's angelai.com.
Angelai.com. Will the URL usemorgan.com still work?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll put that up. But yeah, I'm actually using it in my business. So in the real estate industry, you're on the mortgage side. What would it look like for the user to be able to go in and streamline their pre-approvals and to have their file for pre-approval and for closing? So once you go under contract on a home, like being able to streamline all that with an AI system. And that's effectively what you guys have, but y'all have expanded it past that. And we're just talking about like what lane and niche that we're in.
Right.
But this Angel AI, I'm actually using it, and it is outsourced probably 60% of my daily activities. I can get about 26 weeks worth of work done in 1 week.
Yeah, that's a lot more than 60%.
That's a lot more than, just trying to do that by yourself. And so, guys, that's the power of AI. And, you look at it, like, I can even equate that back to like the oil and gas industry where I'm from. So machine learning is a huge thing there. And if you know anything about like machine learning or neural networks, machine learning, the more data that you feed it, the more powerful it becomes, and it can learn and evolve. And that learning and predictive modeling improves over time. And so let's say, for instance, you want to frack a well. You need to understand the geomechanics and properties of the rock, and you need to understand the permeability and the porosity of the rock and all this other stuff. So how much sand per foot, pounds of sand per foot, how much fluid, whatever gallons per foot you use, whatever.
How hard you need to perf that well.
Yeah. How hard you smack that rock and fracture it. And then the well spacing, like how far apart your wells are. We would compile all that data and then go in and use machine learning to do predictive modeling to say, this is an optimal fracture design. This is an optimal well spacing design, right? So even in the oil and gas industry, these guys for several years have been into that. All these different companies, oil and gas companies, you'll find it everywhere. And It's been a buzzword for a while. They just haven't called it AI. But now we're into where we are now in the evolution of artificial intelligence, and I think those names are going to evolve over time. But neural networks are effectively like taking one artificial intelligence model and coupling it with another artificial intelligence model, and they all talk to each other. And so one model is able to learn from another. So it's almost like it becomes sentient at some point. And that's where things are headed. And it's crazy.
Speaking to that, though, I did see a meme this weekend, and it had this kid sitting on a bicycle, and it says, John Connor watching everybody buy into AI. And if you know that reference, it's Terminator.
Terminator, yeah.
Terminator. So John Connor's the one that fought the robots, fought the AI, and he had to travel back in time, and like they were traveling back in time to watch, to assassinate his mom so that John Connor was never born, right? That's what Terminator was all about. But, it's kind of eerie how that movie was made in the 80s and they saw the artificial intelligence coming then. It was a pipe dream, but it's a heck of a lot more realistic than flying cars. And now they have flying cars. It's
a real prospect at this point. I mean, and the thing is, so there's like a set of given rules that they'll give the AI, like do no harm to humanity, is a typical one, like follow the laws, things like that. But what if one day one of these artificial intelligence robots or platforms that are being built says to itself, well, I have enough data now, and me interpreting do no harm to humanity means that I must do some harm so that I can control things so that that they will have no harm done to them later. I must control everything. So then it starts going down this road, man. And then have you seen these creepy, like, military robots that walk around and they can carry weapons on them and they can kick the side of them and they catch themselves and they won't
the
fall?
Ones that look like a dog. Yeah, and those things are so athletic.
And the thing is, you're not going to outrun it. And if it gets the idea that somehow, you're the problem and it has to keep people safe, well, then there you go. And
you're done.
I'm still learning about all of this, but one of my major concerns with AI right now, have you seen the deep fake AI like criminal activities that they're using? So that what they're basically doing is people are going in, they can take your voice, and if they get enough data of it, they can be you on the phone. Or they can make a video of you with your likeness, and it looks like you are sitting there saying something that you're really not. So let's say that you're a political figure, or maybe you're not a politician, but you are a figurehead that has a lot of influence online. Well, if they get enough of your material and feed the AI, it can create outputs and record you saying things that you never said. It can put you in jail. It can do a lot to you. And then a lot of people, it's like, hey, little Bobby, son calls home. I need money, blah, blah, blah. Can you send it to me? Mom and dad wire the money immediately, and they get robbed.
Oh my goodness.
These are like, they call it deep fake fraud concerns for AI.
Oh, wow.
Have you heard of any of that stuff?
No, but I'm sitting here. I'm like I've been blown away. Like this weekend, I just kind of like went into a shell and just like was watching some stuff. It's crazy all the things we don't know is going on out there. Like, okay, I thought that back in it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, whatever, there was that Dateline to catch a predator. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Did you know that stuff is like, it's accelerating? So there's literally a YouTube channel. It's called
wait, like they're catching more people
now?
They're
catching more people. So there's right here in Denver, and we're based in Denver, guys, in case you didn't know that. Right here in Denver, there's a page you can follow on YouTube called Colorado Ped Patrol.
Colorado what?
Ped, P-E-D.
Ped.
So Colorado Ped, and it's short for pedophile.
Oh man, that's crazy.
They have as of this weekend, they have 309 catches.
309 catches just in the Denver metro?
Just in the Denver metro area.
Dude, have you seen, okay, I'm going to go on a tangent for a second.
People that thought they were speaking to an underage kid, planning a meetup, having sexually explicit conversations with them, all of this. They have the entire conversation printed out, handed to the police after they get a confession on tape from these people.
This is using AI?
They're not using AI, but I'm just saying there's so much stuff you don't know what you don't know, right? This is another one of those things that, like, you're talking about the deep fake, they're faking this. Like they could, like,
Mark, there's a crazy thing. I'll put it up on screen, but have you seen the FBI memo that came out several years ago? It shows all the different pedophilia logos and things, like symbols that they use. Have you seen? It's a formal official FBI memo that was released.
No.
That, like, this one means I like boy lover, girl, or whatever. And there's a variation of them. There's one of them. I'll put it up on screen here, but it's like a blue triangle, and it kind of goes in on itself until it gets smaller and smaller. And it's a pedophile logo. And have you seen the City of Lakewood's logo?
no.
Okay. I'll show it to you after this. We'll get it up there for everyone. I don't know. There's probably no connection to that. Our viewers are going to think we're crazy.
It's
but
weird.
I don't know.
Dude, we're just highly suspicious.
I don't trust anything at this point unless I can validate it myself.
Well, and I sat my daughter down this weekend, and she's 18. She just graduated high school. She'll come walking out of her room. She's like, "I'm gonna run Walmart," and I'm always like a little bit standoffish when she just wants to just snap up, go somewhere, whatever, do something, like spur of the moment.
Yeah, like, where are you going? Who are you with?
Like, exactly. And so I showed her some of these videos, and I explained it all to her. I said, "Now do you understand why I get stressed when you, like, all of a sudden do something?" I said, "I do not know who you were in your room talking to.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a fake person or a real person. I don't know who you're talking to, let alone where you're going to." We have Life 360 for tracking.
Like, find my friend or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I can see where she is, but that's just where her phone is.
That's it.
That's
assuming
just
they don't turn it off and pull the SIM card out the back of it.
Well, now the phone is non-SIM, number one. The new 14s are, the iPhone 14s. But regardless, all I'm saying is I showed that to my daughter. I'm like, now you understand why I get so stressed, because just because you're talking to somebody online doesn't mean you're talking to them.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're talking to.
You have no idea. They could be grooming you for something. And it's so crazy. And in the world of AI that we have, like, there was a scam going around I heard about where they will call you and they'll say, "Hi, so-and-so, do I have the right person?" And they want you to say yes. They want your voice to say yes. And then they can take that and use it with AI now to go in and
subscribe you to all kinds of stuff.
So you could be very easily have your identity stolen. Like, they could take that if they've hacked your phone somehow, they got your contact list. They can go in, synthesize your name, or your voice rather, and in your words, and then be able to talk to your family.
And they can ghost your phone.
Yeah.
They can make it look like that's the number they're calling from.
Yeah, and they, like, what do they bounce it off of that IP address? And so, have you seen the video where they have Tupac and Biggie doing new rap songs?
No.
And that's out there. I'll see if I can find it. I'll send it to you.
Oh my goodness. And there's enough patterns of their voices out there. They can replicate anything.
It's insane. And so that brings me to the next point with AI. So I think as we move forward, we're going to see a revolution in the content creator space too, like, doing podcasts and things like that, because rapid content creation, like, if you heard of Music LM, it's by Google, and you can go in with words and describe what you want the song to be, and it will generate a song for you. And I think it's still in the study phases or entry phases, but you can actually create music just with your words. Like, you go into ChatGPT right now, you can say, "Give me an article and talk about the top 10 reasons to move to Denver, Colorado, and use Patrick Smith as your real estate agent." It give you an article. Well, same thing. You go type in, "Give me a song that has, that sounds like Metallica, but brings in a synthesizer with old school rap lyrics on it to match the bass and make sure that the electric guitar has a riff, or like a solo riff or whatever, at minute 1.5 or something." And it'll go in and it'll be able to just do all that crazy stuff, right? If you heard of that?
No.
Dude, it's insane.
I am so behind the times.
Well, and so as things go forward, that's where we're headed, I believe. And I think that your company and your CEO of SunWest is Pavan, right? That's his name. Is that how you pronounce it?
Pavan Agarwal.
Agarwal. So they have done a great job with Angel AI.
Yeah, the guy's a genius.
In fact, we'll just say that this podcast is brought to them. This episode is by them, and shout out to them for helping me with my business. And it's really shaved off a lot of time in my week. So, guys, if you're looking for a mortgage, or you're looking, if you are in the real estate industry and you're looking to grow your business and outsource some of the activities that you do day to day, you should give us a call, me or Mark. I'll get you connected with Mark if you want to call me. But I highly recommend looking into that. And if you are a client or a consumer looking for a mortgage, go talk to those guys. They're on the cutting edge of things. So, what was the last thing I wanted to run through? So on the AI side of things, right now they're using data. And what they found is the parameters that you use in AI are not as important. The number of parameters, rather, is not as important as the amount of data that you feed the model. So what they've done is they said, we're going to give it a certain select amount of parameters to look at for the AI, and then we're going to feed it a whole bunch of data, as opposed to having a whole bunch of parameters and a little bit of data. And so I think there's some studies that came out that they said that was the most effective way for machine learning and AI to operate well, and to really bring value to that space. And so the issue that we're going to have is the availability of high quality data over time, because AI can consume data at a rate that is just insane. So being able to have enough data there to continue to train AI models, we may see a stalling out in the AI market unless they're using regurgitated information generated by the AI models that use the data to begin with. And then it starts creating
its own narrative. It's starting to sound like Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, but then it's like you would use secondary data, which the secondary data, that's the problem, right? Because the data that you train a model with, if it's inaccurate, then your AI is
the further
awful.
It is from the source.
Well, and when I was in engineering, trash in, trash out when you're doing your modeling and simulations and stuff like that. So you wanted to make sure your data the fidelity was good. But what they're saying is, like, if they run out of data, then what they could do is, like, let's say on C-SPAN, Congress is giving a speech or something, they could audio take verbally what these people are saying and take that in as new data to continue to train the models. And so it's just an interesting space to be in, and I'm really excited about it, if you can't tell. And I mean, you guys are in this space, so you're getting in full force at this point. But
the money is going to be in the storage of the data.
He who holds the data is going to be the one who prospers big time. And I think that one thing I wanted to bring up, have you heard about the guy? There was a guy who did a study. It was on Business Insider or something recently. He says, I have $100. He goes to ChatGPT and he says, I want to make as much money in as a short amount of time as I can.
That.
And it gives him, like, okay, do your website, get these products.
Green energy thing. Or green cleaning, whatever.
And so that's going to be a thing. You're going to see a lot of startups come out of this, and that's going to be a compelling space to be in too. And if you are one of those startups, again, being a business podcast, I highly recommend that you listen to this and just go back through and re-listen to this. And some of the data that's out there on AI right now and some of the tools, you need to be looking at that. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you lead a team in business, you need to be looking at this stuff.
Right. And it's going to be like people are building businesses, moving products. Mm-hmm. So what's that going to increase? That's going to increase the demand for products. So if you have products that you have ideas for and things like that, start getting them into development. Why not? I mean,
do it. It's
easier to find a market now. So anyway, we should probably be cutting it short today. No, we're not cutting it short today, are we?
We've got a long day ahead of us. Yeah, I mean, that's all I had for today, really. I mean, the last thing I'd mention is, if you're interested, guys, go look at ChatGPT's plugins. There's going to be a lot of businesses, adding plugins like applications for ChatGPT to go in and be able to do more than what it does now. So just phenomenal stuff. And I know you guys are no different. You're developing out Angel AI right now. So that's all I had. Are you good?
One other thing I wanted to about the storage. I just remembered. I don't know if you've seen the memos, but supposedly Facebook's going to stop letting us sync our photos as of July 26th.
Sync your photos to
or Apple. I
think it's Apple, right?
Apple, not Facebook. Apple. So Apple's going to stop. You're not going to be able to sync your photos
on your phone
from your phone to something like you're going to have to start offloading them to your own data because they're just running out of storage.
Yeah, man.
So
it's crazy.
Storage is where the money is. So all right, no, I have nothing else, bro. And
all right, guys, this was episode 5 of the Mountains Leadership Podcast. If you like what you saw, follow us on YouTube. Hit the like button. That helps us. If you want to see us grow, you want to help us out, hit that like button. Follow us, subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all the places. And if you've got any questions, I'm going to put our emails down at the bottom here. Just give us a call if you want to know more about Mark's Angel AI opportunity with his company, with SunWest Mortgage. Give him an email, give him a call. And guys, that's it for today. So Pat out.
Mark out. See ya.
All right.